Stepping up. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone.
Howdy.
I wanted to call the meeting to order at 4:01 and take a roll call. Dave.
Present.
Yuki.
Here.
Erling.
Here.
Janice.
Here.
And Sandy.
Here.
And Chair Susan is present as well. So do we have an adoption of the agenda?
Let me just interrupt and introduce the people who are here.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, our guest, yes.
So Carol, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk and join us. If you'd like to just let us know who you are. And Carol, can you? Carol? Well, let me try with Mark. Mark? Oh, maybe I have to do this.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Great. Okay, Carol?
Yes, I'm Carol Singer.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about the birdhouses when you get to that.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you. Mark?
I'm Mark Donahue. Sometimes my Zoom shows up as Jimmy Donahue. That's my grandson who uses a computer twice a week for online learning.
That's why we're asking. Today you're showing up as Mark.
Oh, fabulous.
All right. And
Welcome.
there is a Wally. Oh, let's try that again. Wally, can you hear us?
Let me unmute. There, I unmuted.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'm Wally Holman, a retired architect and now brick lodge sculptor and painter.
Great.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Are we ready for adoption of the agenda?
I'll move it. Erling moves it.
Okay,
I
second.
second it.
Very
Gina
good.
seconds.
All right. Are there any comments on from the public that are not
We
on?
have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote. Okay, we have a motion to adopt and a second. Dave.
Aye.
Yuki.
Hi.
Erling.
Aye.
Janice.
Aye.
Sandy.
Hi.
Chair says aye. We are adopted. We have an agenda adopted. Public comments not on the agenda?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, then we have an adoption of the minutes. Should we do a roll call for that as well? Do we have a
I'll move.
motion?
I'll make the motion to approve it submitted.
I second it.
Okay. Dave.
Aye.
Yuki.
Hi.
Erling.
Aye.
Janice.
Aye.
Sandy.
Hi.
And I say aye as well. Okay. 5A, old business. I'm going to ask Erling to do the update on the birdhouses, and I want to thank everyone for their very thoughtful input. I don't know if before Erling takes it away, I don't know if anyone saw the reference to our very own Banksy of La Miranda with the birdhouses. Did you see that on Nextdoor?
Mm-mm.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, I think we should start with public comment, starting with Carol Singer,
Carol.
then Mark, and then see if Wally wants to say something.
All right, Carol, you're
Am I on? You can hear
Yes.
me?
on.
Yes. I'd just like to put in a plug for the birdhouses. I think they're a marvelous addition to Lafayette, to our idea of a semi-rural, city, and a big contribution to the public art. I live in Silver Springs. We have 65 homes in our homeowners association there. There are another 26 up the hill. And we have several birdhouses on stop signs. And all I have ever heard anyone say, and I'm on the board, is how wonderful that we had a birdhouse put in our neighborhood. And I'm very active in the city. This is the only time I've ever heard anyone think they were not a wonderful addition to our environment and the atmosphere of the city. So I would urge you to do whatever you can do that they remain, and I hope we get more of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay. Yeah. Then we have Mark Donahue.
Let me. Pardon me, my thing. There it goes. Allow to talk. There you go.
Okay, I'm Mark Donahue, and I live at 1221 Upper Happy Valley Road. I'm the president of HVIA, the Happy Valley Improvement Association. I got involved with the association after living in Atlanta for 30 years, but having a home here. And I watched these birdhouses arrive, and I watched the daffodils arrive at this time every year when we came out. When I got here, I wanted something to do, and I found out who Greg was, and I found out who the association was. I've never seen anything like this gift in any place I've ever been to a city. The amount of work that Greg does and the association does to make all of this possible, to me, is just a gift, and I love it. I haven't met anyone that doesn't love it. I was in Lafayette today buying some mulch, and the person asked me where the birdhouses came from in Lafayette. And I told him the story, and the reach is greater than just Lafayette. And I hope we continue to do it, and that we certainly want to maintain them. But it's a gift, and I've never seen a gift like it. And I'm just proud to be associated in the small way I am with the birdhouses that are all over Lafayette.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Wally Holman.
Before
Do
we
you have
get
any?
to Wally, I just want to say that I was going to say Congressman Anduri, Councilmember Anduri has joined us as well.
Very nice.
Let me move to Wally. All right, Wally, you're free to speak.
Okay, I was trying to get a picture, but I guess I can't do that. I clicked on my camera, but I guess I can't do that. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been a Lafayette resident and business person for over 50 years now. And I have my home and studio on Solana Drive. I think we have some nearby birdhouses here, but I've seen many of them at we had a Arenda Presbyterian Church also. And I agree with everyone else that I think they're a real asset to the community. I've been on, a long time ago, I was on the Lafayette Walkways Commission, so I know that you're busy with your commission, but I'm hoping that there's no further objections to these birdhouses. So thank you for letting me attend.
Okay, thank you. Now, among the commissioners, are there any questions of the people that just testified? Okay, there's no questions.
Council member, if you'll just raise your hand when you want to speak, I have my eye on the panel there.
Oh, for Councilmember Anduri,
Yes.
does he have his hand up or no?
No, but I just wanted to let him know that if he wants to speak, he can raise his hand and I'll unmute him.
Okay, well, just to give a very quick background, we're here discussing this because we received a letter from Craig and Virginia Swain that was dated 27 December last year, which I believe went to the city council, or went to the city manager actually, and the city manager referred the letter to this committee. And we discussed it at our last meeting, and we were working on a motion to accept the birdhouses as a gift of public art to the city. And we developed a motion, but we ran out of time before we were able to vote on it. So the matter is was continued to today to consider the motion and vote on it. And also, I was I was assigned the task of consulting with the artist, Greg Muller. So I did that. And so I had a chat with Greg and a number of other people, including Mark and Bern Mathieson and her husband, Oyston, Peter Clark, and a few others that all consulted. Everyone universally supports birdhouses in Lafayette. So with my conversation with Greg, he gave me some background. He also said that he's had significant interest in Orinda and in Moraga. And in fact, he's installed a few and on the day that I talked to him, he was on his way to install some birdhouses in Moraga. So there's community interest throughout La Morinda for this project. Greg agreed that, and I read to Greg the motion that we will be voting on, and he is in a full agreement with the motion and supports the motion. And so I am prepared to read that motion, unless there's some members of the commission that would, or committee would like to make some comments. And then if none, I'll read the motion.
I just have a quick comment, which is I just want to commend Dave Dondero for the excellent work he did in putting together all those articles. That was so helpful for me to sort of look at the larger context outside of the city of Lafayette. So I just wanted to thank him for the work he did on that. It was really excellent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Okay, and that reminds me, as part of our staff report going to city council, because this motion requires the city council to actually accept the artwork as public art, according to our ordinance. And so the packet should include Dave's work, as well as the letter from the Swains, and all of the public comments that we have here together as part of the minutes, and the letters that we have received from the Happy Valley Improvement Association and Mr. Clark. So the packet will be fairly comprehensive.
Mhm.
Okay, if no further questions, I'm prepared to read the motion. And the motion is, it's in 6 parts. Number 1, the birdhouses, coveys, and squirrel sculptures installed now on various city stop and traffic information signs are public art conforming to Lafayette Municipal Code 6-2602B and 6-2607A 1 and 3.
Is it 1 and 3 or 1 through 3?
1 through 3.
Okay, thank you.
2, the materials, fabrication, and installation of the components of this conceptual art installation are appropriate as regard to structural and surface integrity, weathering, and public safety per Lafayette Codes 6-2607-4. Number 3, the existing components of the artwork in place on this date, March 3rd, 2021, should be accepted by the city council as a gift of artwork per code 6-2606. 4, the artist shall conform to section 6-2606, including A2, maintenance, and B1, committee referral for these and future components. Number 5, prior to installation, and this would be future installation, the artist shall submit future components for the artwork to the Director of Engineering and Public Works for approval, as to ensure that nothing is mounted on the signs that may distract the driver when installed in the public right of way. And number 6, final portion of this, the Public Art Committee has full right to deaccession and removal of artwork installed herein per section 6-2609. And that's the motion. And we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Oh, there's a raised hand. Let me let Council Member Andorian. Okay, there we go.
I'd just like to ask, number 4 refers to maintenance. What did you have in mind with respect to maintenance? Who would be responsible?
It just, the maintenance would simply be to keep them in good order, which he is currently doing.
So the artist would continue to maintain them?
Yes.
Okay.
And paragraph 6, if for some reason they're not maintained and they start disintegrating or falling apart, we have the right to remove them.
Yeah, the city council, right?
Yes, correct.
And then, of course, the ordinance calls for entering into an agreement, formal agreement between the city and the artist. So that's something that I guess will need to be in the resolution that the council adopts.
Yes, and I did not put that in the in this, and that will have to be added in the resolution that comes through the city council.
Okay.
I could add that here.
Oh, that's okay.
Is that okay, Carl? We'll put it.
Sure. I mean,
Make that
we have to have a
make
formal
that
agreement, so.
Yeah, make that as part of the recommendation to city council, Jenny.
Okay.
That should be included.
So can you say that again for me a little bit more clearly so I understand? What am I including in?
Go ahead, Carl. It would be.
I heard something about an agreement, a signed agreement.
Well,
Whenever there's a gift from an artist to the city, there has to be a formal agreement between the city and the artist. So that can be called for, signing that can be authorized in the city's resolution. But we'll need to have the agreement as an exhibit to the city's resolution.
So I've seen two kinds of agreements. I've seen the letter that we crafted with Mala for Adam Dolberg and the BIPOC Rock Garden. And then I've seen the really elaborate one that was crafted for Ursus. Which kind of agreement are we looking for?
It'd be the first.
Closer, I'd say the opposite, closer to Ursus.
It could be. Okay, the review process is 2605, 6-2605D for the city council. Yeah, and I could work with you on that, Jenny, to
Okay.
To make a.
To make a new kind of agreement?
Yeah.
And that is,
We'll look at both of those.
that is.
So my
separate.
motion, the 6 items, and then the staff will, on the staff report to city council, it will include that recommendation for their inclusion in the resolution.
With that being said, Erling, does that mean that we can proceed with,
You can ask for the vote now. If there are no other further comments on the motion.
I actually have a couple
Okay.
comments / questions. The first is, I mean, there's a lot of these birdhouses. How do we see this getting approval panning out? I don't remember who it was with the city engineer, or I can't remember exactly what you read, Erling. But are we worried at all that this could take up a lot of time in the approval process?
No, I don't think so.
Has that person that you cited has to approve them been made aware that this is a new task for him?
Yes.
Okay.
After we, I'll tell you what, after we vote on this, and if it's approved, I'll talk to our city engineer and tell him it's coming down. And the idea is simply to make sure that they're not obscuring a stop, as we've noted.
My second question is, to me, I haven't been on the committee that long, but to me, this is a little unusual in the sense that it is a art installation that is open-ended in terms of size and scope. You know, there's nowhere in the motion did I hear anything about when enough is enough, which was one of the concerns expressed in the letter. And I'm wondering, do we want to have anything that sort of addresses the idea of what saturation might be? Or are we willing for now to simply let it continue organically the way it has in the past?
Well, I think bullet point number 6 covers that.
Can you just refresh my memory on bullet point
It doesn't specifically use those words that you're talking about, but let me read it to you. The Public Art Committee has the full right to deaccession and removal of artwork installed herein per City Code 6-2609. If it became too
Prolific?
yes, we can remove it. And that would be existing and future installations.
Yeah, to me, that doesn't really address the criteria by which we would make such an assessment. I heard that particular item being more that if they fell into disrepair, or if something else happened sort of globally, that's our escape hatch, that's our safety net. Mine is much more, what is the scope of this art installation, and do we want to articulate anything about that, or are we, as I said before, just willing to say for now it's been fine and it will continue to be fine and saturation is a long ways off?
Well, that would be my point of view, but I think that the other members of the committee should pitch in and let's see what they think. I think if we get it too complicated, then it may just stop. And I don't think we want it to stop.
I thought from our last meeting, we talked about that where it was right now, sort of as a snapshot, was the installation, and that any additional birdhouses that wanted to be added to this existing installation would have to go through some process. And I kind of feel like that is a little bit more on my comfort level as well. And it does, I think, address some of what Dave's talking about, which is, this is the song that never ends, right? I mean, it could just grow and grow. And it does feel like we're at already, I feel, a pretty good saturation level, to be honest. So am I mistaken? Didn't we talk about this sort of snapshot that these were the birdhouses we had, and this was the installation that we were accepting into our collection, and that we were kind of going to make it more difficult in the future if he wanted to continue to add?
Well, we could change. Well, let's hear from the rest of the committee.
My understanding was that we were looking at this as an art installation as it is now. And it was a whole, and that's why we were involved in accepting it. So I like the fact that we're from here on in, we have other requirements or other recommendations, but we're accepting it as a whole now, as a city, as a gift to the city, to be maintained by the artist. And I think the whole proposal is the essence of what we said. However, I really agree with Dave and Janice that it could get out of hand. And so I think we should be careful with what comes now. And I think we have it in the proposal, in that we say that it should be go through the city engineer. Did you say, Pat? Erling?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we really cover it. But I think we should be clear that this isn't going to go on forever without some approval by the city. If the city is through us or through the engineer or whatever.
Okay, anybody else have any comments?
My comment would be in reference to the letter that was sent in support of them, as it's a natural outgrowth of the Happy Valley Improvement Association, which lends itself to the snapshot idea and the installation idea. And I'll just say, I see that being a more discreet presentation.
Well, what we could do on Part 5, prior to installation, the artist shall submit future components for the artwork to the Public Art Committee and the Director of Engineering and Public Works.
Councilmember Anduri has his hand up as well. He's on the screen.
Okay. And that would be a modification to 5. Artwork to the Public Arts Committee, or to the Public Arts Committee and the Director of Engineering and Public Works for approval.
Can we set some sort of like a frequency on that so that we don't have him coming to every single meeting to have us approve an additional component to his installation? Like not more than once a quarter or something like that. So he's not showing it. So we're not having to approve birdhouses every meeting.
Let me think. Let's Carl Anduri, Councilmember Anduri's got a point.
Well, it was on this topic because the way you had it originally is that the city engineer would approve it, but the only criteria the city engineer is looking at is public safety. So the implication there that as long as the artist is proposing birdhouses and installing birdhouses and they're okay with public safety, it can go on forever. So you still need to address is there an end to this?
Well, that would be then through the Public Art Committee.
Well,
if we add that to,
it brings you back to your issue of how often do you want to be considering that? Do you want the artist to bring them to you in groups of 10 or 20, or how do you want to do that?
Well, let's run that by the committee. What does the committee feel about that?
I like the idea of no more than once a quarter.
Okay.
I concur with that. And I'm going to raise my hand once again. I want to add that even though we had a very long discussion at our last meeting about that, one of the reasons why we didn't vote is we all agreed that it was more appropriate to actually have a conversation with the artists before we, put together this very, involved motion, which was very well thought out. But I feel that we may need to return to the artist with this revision. I'm just throwing that out for the committees to discuss.
Carol had her hand up, and so I let her into the discussion.
Yes.
Oh, I understand. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from, but as a citizen, a lot of citizens want the birdhouses. So I don't think you should limit, say, well, are you saying only one citizen a quarter can come in and ask for a birdhouse? Or, where are the citizens in this if they'd like to have a birdhouse? And I know a lot of them do, and he can only make so many. So, so I'd raise that question. What about us, the citizens that want these?
I think it would be the artist who would be coming to us and saying, I want to install these X number of birdhouses in these X number of locations. So it wouldn't necessarily be a citizen coming to us. It would be the artist coming for approval to increase the size of the installation that he has already established. So, if a citizen wanted a birdhouse, they need to talk to the artist, I think.
Yes.
But the artist would come to us and say, here's what I want to do next, yes or no, Public Art Committee. And we would probably just say yes, but there may be circumstances in which we say no. So anyway, that's my understanding of what we'd be doing.
But it would still be once a quarter.
Well, yes, that could be
There
grouped.
would be several pieces once a quarter. It wouldn't be one bird house per
Right.
quarter.
He
Okay.
could come with however many you wanted once a quarter.
And I do believe that on private property, there would be no issue. So if a citizen would like a birdhouse on his private property, then that's a non-issue that doesn't have to come to the Public Art
Yeah.
Committee. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
We have two other hands up.
thank you.
Sandy and council member. Sandy?
No, I think Janice explained it, I think the way I wanted to explain it.
Okay. Council member?
Would the committee feel comfortable? It's limited to birdhouses on stop signs and traffic information signs. Would the the committee feel comfortable letting the artist continue until each stop sign and traffic information sign has a birdhouse, subject only to the traffic engineer ruling whether or not there's a public safety danger, in which case you wouldn't put it on that particular sign? I just see, if you're comfortable with that, that's just an easier way to do it. If you're not, I can see this quarterly thing is going to be, a little bit difficult both for the committee and for the artist. It can all be provided for in the complete agreement, but if you don't mind the logical conclusion of all this, a birdhouse on every traffic information sign, then probably should just go down that road.
I agree with that scenario. I think that would be okay to have a birdhouse in every sign. Because they're,
Chicken
Go
in
ahead.
every pot and a
but
bird.
that's my point.
I said the same thing, Janice. I was on mute though.
Oh. Well, but then, so do we now start to get quails on top of, I sound like such a curmudgeon and I'm really not, but then do we advance to little quails on the top of every street sign?
Well,
Yeah, and is there a possibility that something other than a traffic sign might come into play? I'm not sure what that would be, but I'm thinking of the trails and other things where there are posts or other city-owned objects. I just,
No.
I think for me, I'm just not very comfortable with saying, yeah, we're good with every sign having one. I would just rather say, let's meter it. It's some regular interval, and
Well-
and we'll know when things are starting to get a little out of control.
And I think
well,
once a quarter at a meeting is not, it's not going to take very long. I mean, even if he has, how many can he have? 10, 15 at the very most? That wouldn't take us very long to look at and say yay or nay. I agree. I think I'd like to have some control. I have another question. What happens if another artist comes along and says he too or she too wants to put up birdhouses or birds or quail or something on signs? I mean, are we limiting it to this one artist, or are we opening this up to the interpretation? Well, this is an installation. It could be several artists.
We are on section 5. When we change that, it'll be the Public Art Committee that will monitor this for future installations.
That's why I like to look at it quarterly. If somebody else would like to also, and they may be wonderful. I mean, we might like the idea that it's become an interesting project for other artists. So this way, I think, rather than going back to the beginning, we have a path on how we're looking at the whole installation. So I like
A system of checks and balances, so to speak.
exactly.
Okay, so quarterly, what about biannually? Twice a year rather than 4 times a year.
Well, he might want to install them more often. I like to give the artist the option to keep it open for a quarter, and that's not very much.
And
I
he
mean,
doesn't have to do it every quarter.
No, no.
True, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like just to have an opportunity to, if he is able to actually show us the birdhouses that he's got in progress and where he thinks they're going to go. I'd like to see the birdhouses.
I agree.
Okay, Yuki, any questions, any comments?
No, I just wanted to go back to what Charlie Loria was saying, that we should probably check back in with the artist, just to be sure.
I had a rather long conversation. Of course, I didn't keep notes. Fun, but he mentioned a couple of times he is happy with whatever we decide.
Yeah, that doesn't
Honest to
surprise me.
God, that's
Yeah.
exactly
No,
what he said.
he wrote me
more
a
than
letter
once.
too, because I had written him a letter, setting the visit up, and he wrote me a very nice letter saying he spoke with you and I'm completely okay with what the committee decides. I just wanted to refresh everyone's memory that we're just not arbitrarily putting down steps 1 through 6, that it is a thoughtful discussion with the artist.
Yeah, and
I think that the idea of the quarterly check-in is a good thing and a good dialogue to have.
Okay.
yeah, and it's our purview to do that. So I think, especially given what you've said about his flexibility, I don't think we need to check in with him. I think it's our purview to make these decisions and to add the check-in requirement, and I think we should just do it.
Okay, well then let me
Wait,
revise.
I have
Let
a
me
staff-
revise number 4. Go ahead, Jenny.
I have a staff question that runs back to this agreement. So the agreements that I've seen are for loans of artwork to the city. This is a gift. So I have it, perhaps there's a contract out there somewhere. When Steve Falk made the gift to the library, is that a separate kind of contract? It seems to me that would be a separate contract compared to a temporary loan of an artwork.
Yes, maybe
So-
that's the Falk one. would
Well,
be-
I think Erling addresses that in item 6.
No, but the councilman was talking about having an agreement that we're going to recommend to city council, which is a legal document that we have to come up with. And so I asked whether it should be the
Oh, okay.
Dolberg or it should be the Ursus, but it dawned on me that neither one of those is really applicable here because those are loans of temporary artwork. Those aren't gifts to the city. And so what I should be looking for in back files is a contract that was made when the city received a gift of artwork. And the last one that I recall was the Steve Falk work for the library. That's to the city, correct? Or was that to the library foundation?
That was for the city.
The city, Seeing Red, I think.
The
is-
city owns
That's
the
what he owns.
artwork.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So I'll have to find what they signed and then pull that out, and Erling, you and I can look at that and use that
Yeah.
as the agreement instead, correct?
You're right. And then we'll send it off as part of the packet.
Okay, great. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me go back to 5.
Okay,
prior to installation. The artist shall submit future components for the artwork to the Public Art Committee and Director of Engineering and Public Works for approval as to ensure that nothing is mounted to signs that may distract a driver when installed in the public right-of-way, period. Then we add, the Public Art Committee will consider future installations quarterly throughout the year. Period.
works for me.
Does that do it?
Sure.
So do you have that motion on the table, Erling?
That's, yeah, there's a motion.
And has it been seconded?
I don't, I
No, I
think,
don't think so.
I would
Yeah,
like to.
it was seconded.
Oh, was it?
I beg your pardon. Okay, Dave,
Okay.
So we're done with
Are we-
discussion?
Voting now?
I thought,
Yeah,
we,
finish.
were we closing discussion?
Who was the
Are
second?
there any more?
I don't remember who the second was, but there definitely was one before we went to discussion.
I just need to get the name down.
I'll be the second.
Thank you.
Make it easy.
right, we have to have a second.
Got it.
Okay, then let's call the motion. Everybody's clear on it.
Dave,
Correct.
Aye.
Yuki,
Aye.
Erling,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
chair says aye. And thank you very much for all the work that's gone into this.
And guests, thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
Councilmember Anduri and Carol Singer, Mark Dunaway, Wally Holman, thank you very much for your comments. Very helpful.
Thanks, Erling, for all the legwork.
Okay. It's part of the job. That's what we do.
All right. So here's something that is, for not wanting to use the word dovetail, but is close to what we're tapping into, 5B, guidelines for visible art on private property. This is something we've started some work on, and I've sent some working ideas to Yuki and Erling and have been helped very much by them. It's really, the city is asking us for our input on this, and it's, as I understand it, they're looking for guidelines and a way to illustrate or map out a process for getting this done. And for guidelines, I have suggested that people contact, I'll just read some of my rough draft and I'll send it out to the people that are working on it, and we'll keep shaping it, because my feeling is that this is something that's probably going to need to come before a lawyer and not just done in committee because of the ramifications for the city. So here goes. For people interested in having a private work of art not paid for by the city that is visible to the general public of Lafayette, please consider the following guidelines and contact our liaison, Jenny Rosen at jrosenlovelafayette.org, with the following information. Artist creating the work, purpose of the work, location of the work, size and scale of the work, color palette, materials used in the work, intended duration of the work, maintenance plan for upkeep of the work. Useful resources. When considering creating and or sponsoring a visible work of art on private property, such as a building facade, awnings or benches, I'd like some other examples here. It is helpful to consider provisions in the city's chapter on signs, 6-25, as well as the chapter on public art, 6-26. From the Public Art Committee's perspective, the proposed work should not only promote the aesthetics and ambience of Lafayette, it should seek to express its diverse character and culture of belonging. The artwork should promote a thoughtful dialogue about the meaning of the work. It is also understood that the city would have the rights to make and distribute reproductions of the work for commercial or non-commercial purposes, including but not limited to educational materials and media publicity. Further background on the city's public art guidelines can be found at Love Lafayette Public Art Committee. Process. Once the framework for the proposed work of art is compiled, it will be included on an upcoming PAC agenda. The sponsors and creators of the work will be asked to present the concepts to PAC for review and discussion. If PAC believes the project should move on to the city, we will ask our liaison to place it on the city's consent calendar for review. If the PAC believes work is not appropriate for the city, it will not recommend the work for review by City Council. Examples of unacceptable art are stated in code, and we have that. I need to plug in the numbers. The entire process is open to the public through notification on the city's website. The process from introduction to PAC to review by the city is likely to take several months. And that's where I am with that. And I welcome any and all input.
Can I ask some clarifying questions?
Certainly.
I probably missed this at the beginning. What private property are we talking about? All private property or commercial property? Or
this is in reference to
downtown?
commercial, and I think it's growing out of the DEI mural.
It would be commercial property.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how would a Janet Perlmutter or whatever her blah blah name is?
Yeah.
I mean, she's got art out in front of her place that changes all the time. Are we really asking her to jump through 2 months worth of hoops to get approval for her installation of the month?
Well, no, we're not. But this is something the city has asked us to do. So we're trying to respond to the city's request. And I don't know if they've asked anything of Jennifer Perlmutter's gallery space.
That's merchandise for sale.
Not necessarily. Not all the stuff she has out is for sale.
Had a lot of that as installation for 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess my other question is, how specific are we saying? I mean, like, if someone wants to put art, like a large Desuvero on their small piece of property, and somebody next door says, you know, I don't like that. That's an ugly piece. Who decides that can or cannot be put on their private property?
That's a really good question, Sandy.
I just want deer. I want, you know, we've gone through this at the beginning of this committee. I mean, when we first started to look at work, the kinds of work that we were looking at were, you know, children on a swing and deer and people like that. And some people really gave us a hard time when we started to have some abstract art, or when the berry went up on the corner of, what is that?
Pleasant Hill and Mount Diablo, yes.
That, and, you know, I think that we want to be really careful, I think, with dictating what people can and can't do. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this.
I'm with you, Sandra. I'm really having a hard time with this too. I mean, I understand there's a sign ordinance and that there are ordinances around what commercial properties can and can't do, but where's the line on art? And yeah, are we trying to solve a problem that we don't actually have?
That is part of it, but I think it is definitely in response to murals that we want up.
A mural.
Yeah, and the city. I can't speak for the city, obviously. I just know that Jenny has come to us with the request from the city that we discuss this, and that is what I'm bringing forward. And our discussion could say we don't feel that this is our place.
Would it be more appropriate to handle, you know, this in a way where if a public, if a commercial space would like to install art, that we ask them to come to the Public Art Committee for guidance. That way, we kind of keep it open, and yet we keep a little bit of control. I hate to dictate exactly what should go in and out in any, other than, suggest that we have some oversight, but I want to keep it loose. I really think we should keep it loose. That's my.
Okay, I hear you.
I agree.
Okay. Janice?
Is the fear, it seems like what I remember hearing in the last meeting was that there was some concern that people could use just to like paint advertising on the side.
Right, signage that eat here now kind of thing.
Right, and so that was sort of the underlying concern why they wanted to put some sort of a construct around this so that we could sort of, short circuit that process. And it seems to me that by keeping it loose, as Sandy is suggesting, and just saying, we need to have some sort of oversight that, somebody would have to come with their proposal of eat here now to us, and then we could, give them guidance and talk to them about how they could put something else on there instead, or, basically decline to accept their design proposal. So anyway, I just want to make sure that what we're really talking about is some concern by the council around this issue of painted on advertising on the buildings. If that's really what their core of why they wanted us to talk about this, I think.
Jenny, do you have any more insight into this?
Before we got the proposal for the mural, no one had come in and wanted to do a project like that would be so visible. And so I think what you're talking about is the suggestion that any project like this come to the Public Art Committee first for guidance is all that's being requested. Somehow formalize that. So however it's best to formalize that, and I don't know what that looks like. I know that in the guidelines for the developers that are now on our webpage under the public art thing, it's all just suggestion, because you can't actually dictate anything. We suggest that you do this. You might want to do this. So something along those lines are guidelines.
Well, I would say what I presented are guidelines, and there's not saying anything you can and can't do.
That's what I sort of heard what you were saying as something that wasn't dictatorial, but that was a suggestion.
Well, the idea would be to streamline. Don't, come to us with this information, and here are reference points. Looking at the referring to public art guidelines that are listed on our webpage, not trying to dictate, but trying to nudge into a more thought out framework.
Well, the idea, the concept that Janet was talking about, that is an advert that's classified as art by the sponsor of the art, has happened, and it was in Walnut Creek, and it's a very famous case. Goes back at least 20 years, maybe 30, and that's the Target logo on the Target store.
Oh, that's right.
And the Target logo, that's a public art project.
Is it painted on?
That's how they got around the sign ordinance.
They painted it on.
Yes, and called it public art.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're talking about, Janice. So that's probably the part of the issue. The other would be something that's extremely objectionable, or something that's maybe far out politically, that we don't want to see in town. And right now that can happen.
Right, and it's actually one thing we probably do need to consider is if somebody does just go ahead and do this and never consults with anybody, and they just paint whatever on the side of their building, then it does seem to me we do need some big guidelines around how to deal with that. And, you know, the side where the glass mosaics are over by Mangia, those three that was just put up spontaneously by the building owner.
And they're beautiful.
They're beautiful, but they just showed up one day and fortunately showed up and are great, but they could have shown up and been 3 nudes. And then we would be like, oh, you know, what do we do? So we do, I think, need to have some idea of what we want to do when things do show up and are questionable. That seems to be more a juicier issue than, you know, what do we do if somebody wants to put something up?
It's funny, I was under the delusion that that the city already had mechanisms in place to deal with unwanted signage.
Well, we do.
Well, 625 signage, yeah.
But if you could define it under our ordinance as art, the sign ordinance doesn't kick in.
Again, I guess I just thought that was probably already covered. This just seems like a loophole that has to have been exploited a million times across the country, and that there's already,
but it has,
you know, codified. I mean, I'm very interested to hear about the Target example. I had no idea, and I could see where that would be quite the gnashing of teeth between the city and a very, very large corporation.
Oh yes, and they were quite clever and prevail.
Yeah, well, that's because they can afford really clever lawyers.
Well, I put together some words, but it gets to the point of how do you get to the words in our ordinance, these words, and let me throw this out for thinking, and it would be a change in the section 6-2608 ownership and maintenance, and it would be add a section, a paragraph, public art on private property. Artwork installed on private property, not part of an approved project for 6-2602 and 6-2603, and located in or on a public place as defined by 6-2602. The artwork shall be privately owned, public art, and shall be reviewed and approved as required in 6-2605 B and C. The artwork will remain privately owned and meet 6-2607 for criteria for public art, and will be maintained in good order per 6-2608. God, I'm sounding like a lawyer. But that paragraph would allow us to have control over private art installed on private property.
I think we get hung up a little bit on the word private property, and maybe we need to change that out and say commercial property.
Well,
private property almost like dictates what's in your home or on your front lawn, as Sandy was referring to earlier.
The question, you know, what happens if a school wants to put something on the side of their auditorium and it's not in the commercial district?
Okay.
That's the,
okay.
We can, you know, make it broad, but the problem is you got to get to the ordinance.
Which
means that Perlmutter would have to submit her sculpture that's sitting on her sidewalk in front of her building, it's on her property, to the Public Art Committee, and ultimately perhaps to the City Council to have that. And Dave's point is well taken. I don't think that should come in front of us. It's part of her business, and it's not a sign, you know.
Erling, could you send what you read to me so that I have it on file as we go through this, please?
Yeah, and to me, please, as well.
Thanks.
Okay, well, maybe I'll send this to you and then you can send it around. But so the question is, how do we get to the ordinance in that circumstance?
And, you know, I need help on this because this is beyond my pay grade.
No,
My dog even agrees.
no, you're the chair. In your
You know
paper.
what, Susan, you're not the chair much longer. So maybe-
There you go. Okay, shall we move
The
on?
next chair's-
Excuse me.
I don't know who's our vice chair right now.
You know,
I think both of you have put a lot of,
Excuse me.
I'm sure you
Rem,
put a lot of work into it and thought about it very deeply. And I understand what the outcome is, what we want as an outcome. But
where we want to get to.
I really think we have to be concerned about private property.
Yeah.
So that's all I care about. You know, I understand totally what, you know, that what we want to do for the city. But I don't want to overstep our bounds for private property. You know, I really believe in this artistic expression and privacy and all, and I think we have to be careful.
I think we have to be careful, and this is just going to take longer to craft than.
I've got a hand up from the councilman.
Great.
I'm going to bring him in. There you go.
What was that? What was that all
you gonna call for Carl?
Yeah, I just want to say that there are a lot of moving parts here, and you've gone over all of the things that make this so difficult. And my only suggestion is now is the time to consult a lawyer, because I'm not sure how much ability we have as a city to regulate what's on the side of a commercial building in the way of artwork. So it's the first stop. And then the second question is, I mean, what is it that you would want to regulate? Because you've raised great questions here. I mean, I don't think you would want to regulate somebody's sculpture in front of their building. It turns out that the equity inclusion mural is probably the perfect case for if you were to regulate a mural, because it's right on a public parking lot. But what other walls would you want to regulate? I mean, do they have to be on a sidewalk? Do they have to be on a street? I mean, how would you decide? There's just really a lot of issues here, but
Absolutely.
I think starting with a lawyer would be the move now.
So we could consult with Mala.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why I asked for that text that you wrote.
Right.
If we put that together, then I think a meeting with Mala and Narup at the same time to get a little bit of guidance on that.
What they're asking, yeah.
Not, yeah, on what you've got there. Then we can.
I think check with Walnut Creek to see how they handled that the Target sign issue.
Well, I can ask.
They must have an ordinance now that deals with that since that happened.
Yeah, I'm happy to ask Mala to see if she knows.
Yeah.
Since that would be more up her alley, then.
Right.
So I guess the other thing that I'm thinking is reflecting back to the last meeting, we put the mural on hold in order to have to go to city council once.
Right.
With the expectation that we would be meeting with city council on March 22nd for their meeting, which means staff reports have to get to Joanne by, I think I wrote down March 12th was my deadline to get all the staff reports done that need to go to city council in order to make that meeting. So I've got the DEI staff report. I already have a draft for the Birdhouses staff report. The one for these guidelines, that'll have to come after a meeting with Mala and Narup.
Right.
Just really condensing your timeline.
That has to happen now is what I'm saying. If we're gonna, otherwise the DEI mural then gets pushed back to April or we just go before city council every month, you know, I mean, just some things to think about in terms of timing.
Well, I think we ought to, we've basically approved the mural. I think we ought to move forward on that and then deal with the ordinance later. I mean, downstream.
But my understanding is that's not what the city was at. The city did not want to go ahead with the mural until these were in place. And that was the impression I was left with.
Yes, and guidelines are different than the ordinance work. So, and I think that sometimes get overlaps there. You're working on so many issues and so many like critical issues that have just sort of been building up over time, and tackling them one at a time. So birdhouses issue, great. We got that resolved. That one's been hanging over people's heads for a long time. How are we going to deal with that? So you did that. The ordinances and changing the ordinances, there are a number of things you've outlined for ordinance changes are separate from these guidelines. So I was going to ask that maybe you create a subcommittee for the ordinance work, because there have been a lot of suggestions for ordinance changes thrown out, and maybe coming up with a comprehensive list of the ways you want to change the ordinance. Then I can take that to city manager and go through the process with one of you or a few of you. But that's separate from this general guideline. Is just like,
well, could we take the general guidelines that Susan has put together and package that with the work that's done here, the mural that's going on Uncle U's parking lot?
And then
With that satisfaction.
Together could go to city council while we continue to work on the ordinance.
Yes.
That will keep the.
That's a good suggestion, because it does address the guidelines. And yeah.
Well, then could you read the guidelines again? And then we can, and I mean, is that do you think the committee, you guys want to do that? We can go that route perhaps. Approve the mural with Susan's guidelines.
Yes.
Is that a motion, or is there more discussion?
Well, let's hear the guidelines. If you can read
Okay.
them, then somebody will make a motion.
Okay. For people interested in having a private work of art not paid for by the city that is visible to the general public of Lafayette, please consider the following guidelines and contact our liaison, Jenny Rosen, at jrosenlovelafayette.org with the following information. Artists creating the work, purpose of the work, location of the work, size and scale of the work, color palette, materials used in the work, intended duration of the work, maintenance plan for the upkeep of the work, useful resources when considering creating and or sponsoring a visible work of art on private property, such as a building facade. It is helpful to consider the city's chapter on signs, 6-25, as well as the chapter on public art, 6-26. From the Public Art Committee's perspective, the proposed work should not only promote the aesthetics and ambiance of Lafayette, it should seek to express its diverse character and culture of belonging. The artwork should promote a thoughtful dialogue about the meaning of the work. It is also understood that the city would have the rights to make and distribute reproductions of the work for commercial or non-commercial purposes, including but not limited to educational materials and media publicity. Further background on the city's public art guidelines can be found on Lafayette.org, Public Art Committee. Process. Once the framework for the proposed work of art is compiled, it will be included on an upcoming PAC agenda. The sponsors and creators of the work will be asked to present the concepts to PAC for review and discussion. If PAC believes the project should move on to the city, we will ask our liaison to place it on the city's consent calendar for review. If the PAC believes the work is not appropriate for the city, it will not recommend the work for review by City Council. The entire process is open to the public through notification on the city's website. The process from introduction to PAC to review by the city is likely to take several months.
That sounds good.
Oh, Carl's got his hand up.
That's all good if there was an ordinance that supported it.
There isn't.
There needs to be, because this is the issue that I had with the existing mural.
Okay, so this is like the cart and the horse situation.
No, you need to have a basis in an ordinance before that gives authority to the PAC and to the council. When it comes to the council now, the councils would say, well, what are we basing this on? What's our authority for approving this? What right do we have to approve this?
Well, I guess my question then is, why did the city ask us to do this if there was no ordinance existing?
Because
maybe that's our reply, is to say that the underpinning for the work that you've done there is an ordinance, and that needs to happen first.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that conversation. Jenny, is that what the city manager, was that the message that she wanted to be conveyed, that there needed to be?
Some guidelines, proposed guidelines. It's all proposed guidelines. That's how it's been termed. So it's not an ordinance restructuring. It's proposed guidelines in the same way that we have proposed guidelines for development projects. Those are
development.
Those are linked to ordinances. But
Right.
if you look at our ordinance, I think that's why this is an issue, is because it's become clear that the city has nothing in the code that relates to these issues.
Right.
So,
well, could we attach it anyway, Carl? I mean, this is our guidelines. It's not an ordinance. It's a guideline. And this is.
But they're not guidelines though. It reads like a standard that has to be met. And
Dave, I agree completely.
Yeah, so I think if we soften it out and make it guideline language, then yeah, we could do that. On a practical matter, it doesn't mention anywhere, and this is why I was confused initially, that this is limited to commercial property. I did not hear the word commercial at the front end of that at all.
It was private property.
It is private, but in the discussions we've been having, I was saying perhaps that should change.
Yeah,
I'm hearing it the way you're hearing it, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, there's art all over this community in people's yards and stuff like that, and I'm not thinking that's in scope, right? That wouldn't be in scope. I've got a neighbor down the street who's got a huge sculpture in their front yard. That's not in scope, right?
So would the best thing to do at this point then be to?
We could say to the city council that we've reviewed the project and we feel that it's appropriate for that location. And then put some of those details in that and just let it go at that.
Yeah.
And what right does the city council have to comment on it?
They don't. They just say, yes, it's okay, and then they move forward on it. But it's one time on one project.
No, I think part of it is, Susan, you did a really excellent comprehensive job. And I think actually, I don't know, I think it was Dave or somebody mentioned that maybe what we need to do is sort of roll that back a little bit so it's not so detailed and comprehensive, because otherwise it does start to read like an ordinance and like something we really need to codify. And so if we generalize it a little bit, maybe it's just 4 bullet points or whatever, then maybe it's more palatable as a guideline. And then if we need to do an ordinance thing later, we could, and then use your more advanced.
Well, we could just remove references to the existing ordinances. For one thing, it would soften it.
We could also, at this point, set it down, have a meeting with the council member, city manager, chair, and myself, so that we have one conversation rather than having to filter it. So everyone's representative concerns can be brought to the table at the same time.
That's probably the best point. And then you.
Otherwise, it's like, I feel like a conduit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, I think that's a good next step.
That's the best suggestion.
And then let it, and then that would be the committee, the sort of the ad hoc committee that says, okay, let's go ahead and put it in. Go ahead and do the work.
The work of writing the guideline?
No, of putting the, go ahead and
Do the mural.
start the mural.
Start the mural. Okay, yeah.
And one time, just let it go at that. Now, there's one other issue that's part of this, and that is the parking lot's going to have to be blocked off for a short period of time. Not the whole parking lot, just that portion
The wall.
where the wall is, so that the artists can go and do the work. They may have to put a ladder up or 2 ladders up, or maybe even a piece of scaffolding. And that's going to be a 2 or 3 day project, I think, or maybe 4 days, 5 days. So the city engineer is going to have to be involved, because that's.
I think Laura remembers that from our previous meeting, but I think what we need is something to move this down the road, so Laura can begin her fundraising, so we know that the mural is going to happen, because there's so much support for it. We want this to go forward, and that's what I'm just trying to inch the ball down the road, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Can I backtrack a little bit? Because I kind of can't remember how Laura came to Public Arts Committee. She did her own research, I think, and was directed by Narup to come to us. Is there a reason why the city has to approve it?
Not under the ordinance.
No.
Right? So we actually don't even need to bring it to the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Carl's point, is that by what ordinance would they
Yeah, where's the reference point?
approve anything? You know, they're not empowered to do that, nor are we.
The city will be involved because we have to allow them to stage on public property.
But can that be something where, so I really enjoyed this process with Laura, and I think I said this to maybe Jenny and Susan, was there was transparency to the process, and so that nobody's caught off guard when something gets thrown up on a commercial building and then you get a bunch of backlash, and so that at least the Public Arts Committee is there to notify citizens that this is happening, and then also support it if it's something that we all feel strongly about. So then I go back to thinking, well, if the city has no ordinances for it, maybe this is just sort of in goodwill that people submit through Public Arts Committee, just like the Sockland Miwok mural. They want to collaborate with us and in goodwill put something up that's representative of Lafayette. Same thing as another woman in the last city council meeting asked if they wanted to submit a request, some sort of art to be put up. I can't remember who it was in that last.
She hasn't contacted me yet.
Yeah, and then I think Chair Loria said, "Oh, please email Jenny if you're interested in some sort of public art." So maybe it's just more casual that way, and that we're seen as a resource and a place of support rather than like a rubber stamp.
Right.
Just a thought.
That's some good language around the guidelines, I think. I'm glad we're recording this.
So am I.
Well,
can someone recap where we're leaving this? Because we've gone back and forth. I want to know. I want a clearer picture in my muddled mind right now.
Well, I think we still should do what Jenny had suggested, was to have that one
meeting.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah,
and we can even ask them if what we have as working guidelines with Laura's presentation packet are good to go to the city. Does that sound reasonable to put?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can request that.
Well,
so I'm requesting. Go ahead.
So let's identify the committee again. It's going to be the chair.
The chair, Jenny, Narup, and possibly Mala. Is that my understanding?
Mala. And our liaison, Anduri?
Yes.
Yes.
Carl, do you agree?
Well, I would be happy to do it, but I would say Mala is essential.
Mala's
essential.
Is the key figure.
Yeah.
So I'll put in a request for that meeting. Naruk, council member, chair, me, Mala, and that's it. Yeah.
And I'll make the motion that we approve that approach to this mural.
Sorry, before you pass that motion, Erling, is this what you were trying to say, that there might be certain projects that the city shouldn't have to approve? Is that what you were trying to get to?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Sorry, it took me a couple of weeks to put that together. Got it. Thanks.
And while we've got the liaison here, I might ask Carl about that idea. Is there some projects that the Public Art Committee could consider and approve without going to City Council? Or for now, should we just not deal with that, not consider that idea?
I'm afraid I have to defer. I'm just recently back on the council. I've got an 8-year gap, and you've been really active in that last 8 years. And this is only my second meeting. I'm really enjoying what you're doing. I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer that question now.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your input. We're going to get a lot out of you, I can tell. Councilman.
Yeah. Well, Yuki, you made a comment with regard to that, and maybe we should just let that go for a while.
And maybe it comes up in that meeting with Jenny, Susan, Carl, and Mala. Like maybe that is.
It might funnel us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you?
Move on to 5C.
I need a second for the motion to approve the meeting, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, in roll call. Sandy's our second.
Thank
Okay. Dave,
Aye.
Yuki,
Aye.
Erling,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Chair says aye. We are unanimous. Okay. 5C, update on the joint meeting with City Council. Jenny, would you give us a brief?
We had it. Everyone was there. Fabulous teamwork on that. Janice, Susan, everyone contributed their time.
Yeah.
It went off really well. I think everyone was impressed with the amount of work you've done. Tremendous amount of work. I think that the figure about development and projects increasing by 230% is just sort of emblematic of the way all the other work has increased, even year over year. So I think our last report last year was a couple of very sparse pages, and this was an intense 7 pages. So good job. That's all I have to say there. Anybody else have anything on that one? I think everybody attended too, which was really nice.
It's really nice.
It went very well for, particularly considering it's a Zoom meeting. It was a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
I also cannot get over the fact that they said the meeting went on for 8 hours. So I have to commend our city council for not drooling into their Zoom computers. I don't know how they did it.
Well, they might have.
That's true. But I had left by then, happily. But thank you so much, Janice and Jenny.
It was a great report, and you were the highlight of the meeting. It
It went downhill.
Last 7 hours didn't live up to the first.
Well,
Sounds like that was a low bar.
Okay. How about who would like to be on a subcommittee for the expansion of the preferred artists? We're getting some nice tidbits. Janice has given us some really terrific new additions that I think will be great to our artist list. And I think a way to get this done is to take it on as a discrete unit with a subcommittee. And I'm interested to know if anyone would like to be on the subcommittee, because I'm really good at appointing people, as I found out. Janice? Sandy?
Yeah, I was kind of looking for Janice to jump in, but
I'm going to pass on this one.
Okay.
I'm not as involved right now with artists, so I think I'd be the wrong person for this committee.
Okay, thank you.
I really much prefer to just say, here's one that you should put on your list. So I'm not super excited about being
Oh
on.
my God.
Sorry. I mean,
Well, we can always go that way. Here's one, because I've done a few that way too.
Can I ask you a question? You know, we have so many valuable members who are past members, and they're out there. They're working in the art world. Perhaps we can ask to kind of get a subcommittee with some of our past members who
That's
are
a great suggestion, Sandy.
CA, and I mean there are a lot of people.
Marcia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and who is the sculptor, Jenny, who is a CCA? Can't come up with his name.
Clay Jensen. Clay.
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 Yeah.
Clay has a lot of contact and has a lot of interaction in the art world right now.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Sandy.
well, and Jenny, I had hoped that you might be coming forward with some lists of artists from your new interactions with the other public art administrators around the Bay Area.
Yeah, I mean, they have meetings quarterly, so I attended the last one. I think the next one is in May. And I gave Susan, I think, the list of the consultants that some of the cities were using. I also screenshot a number of pictures from their presentations, and I also emailed a number of the ones that I was interested in person that I liked to get images of those artists' works so that I could send that to you. It's you know, item number 355 on the to-do list. But I do have pictures to send you one day. I also have to get you a new roster. You guys have, you don't have one another's correct addresses or emails. So there are a number of things. So I can get you, every time I go, I can add people if that's the way you'd prefer, or present things to you. When I get an opportunity, I can send you images of works that I liked and names of people to contact. So I'm happy to do that because I love going to the meetings. It was a real eye-opener.
Great.
And I was just today at the Chase Center in San Francisco and spent some time, I don't know if any of you have been there, checking out the public art in front of that. They've done a beautiful job along the waterfront there. I had to take my mom for an appointment at UCSF, and we had time to kill ahead of time. And it's so nice and peaceful without people that you could really get up and see the artwork. And it made me really excited about public art. I would love to bring this, I would love to bring some really fabulous, I think there's an opportunity to bring some really great artwork into our city, to finding the right spots for it and stuff. There's some really great stuff out there.
Well,
Jenny, do you think Patrick Dunn might be coming through approval process at any point? Because he is really in the know with artists, and he'd make a fabulous sort of referral.
So maybe we sort of
Do that under 6A, new business?
Yeah, and I will, maybe what you can all do is emailing me your recommendations, and I will put together those pictures maybe this month and get that out to you, and we can do it piecemeal. I just know there was some urgency about having, especially with all these development projects coming in, having a more diverse list of artists from which developers could choose if they wanted. And also that's a guideline, not an ordinance. It's a like, hey, you might like, you know.
you should probably just put me on the subcommittee because
You're
I
gonna
like-
get there. We're gonna
I like
lure
it.
you
I
in.
do like it. Well, because I think the other thing is that list needs to have some curation. Like there are people
Well, I think Jenny went through that in,
that shouldn't be on there, you know, so.
Somebody, one of you all needs to do
Yeah.
like that, like the editing,
Mhm.
like the crossing off.
Yeah.
I can type it up for you.
So, yeah, I will. participate.
We're gonna have a subcommittee and you'll be on it, but we'll also reach out to former members of the committee. Sandy's great suggestion about people that have been involved with this group and know us well. And hopefully, as we get to new business, one of our new board members will hop on that committee.
Okay.
So that's 6A, the vacancies.
Yeah.
I think that I have 2 in hand, but I believe there are 3 applicants or 3 people who've submitted applications.
Great.
Patrick being one of them, one that I got through planning, and one that I'm actually going to have to go back to Joanne to get a copy of because I can't find it anywhere. But I know there's another woman who had expressed interest. It could have been like a year ago because, you know, we just.
Before we went dark.
So I think you have 2 positions and 3 applicants. So I have to schedule a meeting. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been so long, but the interview process is with our
liaisons and not the mayor, I believe.
Yeah.
So the chair, the liaison, yes,
The chair and, okay, so Susan as well.
yes.
Okay,
I have a
Or
question.
whoever the chair is at the time.
I
okay.
have a question. So this has never happened to us before, but it could happen. What happens if you know, these people who are self-referring would like to be members of the committee, and it becomes apparent that they're not good candidates? I don't know any of these people because I've thought about it, and we've come so far in kind of what we've done so far and the people who are on this committee, because I think the level of this committee is extremely high. What do we do if we have applicants that we don't feel would fit in? Can we just go, can we stay with just taking one member? Do we have to take 2 new people?
The answer to that. Does anyone know the answer to that?
And I don't know, do you all see their applications or just the chair?
Yes,
We
So I
have-
send the applications to all members. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We've seen them before, yes.
yes, yes.
I think
No, we can select 1, 2, or 3, however many slots. We don't have to take
It's not
all
like
of
the
the,
Supreme Court.
no. And the chair and the chair and liaison make that decision, make that choice.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the planning commission, when they lost a bunch of people when the rules changed a few years ago, they did not refill the entire committee right away. They chose to have vacancies for a fairly extensive period of time.
Yes,
Because I really want to be
it's an
careful.
unusual situation.
We work so well together, and I really think we have to be aware that whoever comes on the committee has a certain level of, you know, expertise, of involvement in the community, of whatever.
So
And they can help Janice with filling out the new list.
maybe I send you all the applications and then do you like line copy me about whether you think these people should be seen? I'm asking because I'm not sure how it works.
Well, when we have vacancies, I think we have the obligation to interview.
We have to interview them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not-
Who were you interviewed by? Because at the time I was interviewed by Mayor Anderson and Councilmember Geringer.
You're
They-
special.
No, that's who I interviewed with too. Same time as Yuki, either right before or right after. I can't remember. But yeah,
Right.
that was the committee.
So I didn't meet anybody in the committee until I was accepted, actually.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
What was that? Say that again?
They didn't meet with the chair. They just met with the liaisons.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I didn't meet with anybody on the committee in the interview
Well,
process.
But I do think, we saw, we've seen resumes, I think at one point.
Well, the chair is usually involved. There may have been some circumstance.
Maybe I was the chair, but I know I saw resumes.
Well, it sounds
But-
as though many of our experiences were different because I was semi-interviewed by Janice while helping my husband put up hang art and met Erling, and he questioned me quite strongly at a reception. You know, so I had no idea.
Erling, you
That was
were there.
Julia. That was all
Erling, you
Julia.
were there right next to me. I apologize. I think I had Mayor Anderson and Councilmember Geringer, and Erling, you were sitting right next to me. So I apologize. There were 3 people in there. Yeah, okay. I was just worried because I was thinking we may not be in the room when we meet the people, to Sandy's point, but
Yeah.
but if we get the resumes,
I
yeah.
think Susan will be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as chair, yeah.
But Susan will represent our feelings. I mean, I think if there's somebody that stands out who really shouldn't be on the committee. I think we'll just convey it to Susan, and I'm sure that if we convey it to the council, that they will take our recommendation.
I
Yeah,
think so. We work very well together. And we're all showing up all the time. I wouldn't want to lose that.
I agree. And we respect each other's opinions. I mean, it's a good committee. It's a very good committee.
And it's about to get better because we're going to move on to 6B, election of new officers.
That was a funny transition.
Yeah, thank you.
wow, I didn't know that was coming.
Oh, come on.
Not it.
Pardon?
Not it.
Well,
No idea. I'm sorry, I need to go wash my hair.
I'm going to tell you also that we have 2 guests who arrived during the meeting. I'm going to have to check in with them at some point to get their name.
Okay, so
for the record.
let's look like who we are and what we represent, people. Do I have candidates? June will be my last meeting, and someone else will be chair, and who would like to take on this very rewarding job?
Can you say a little bit for a newbie, what the positions are, how long they are?
Yeah.
yeah, I can,
Yes.
you want to go over that?
No, you go ahead, Erling. You have a much better corporate memory.
Well, generally speaking, we have a chair and we have a vice chair. And we lost our vice chair this time. But normally the vice chair would move into the chair's position. The term is for 1 year, and it concludes after in March, because it concludes the meeting after
Our
we meet
presentation to city council.
with the city council. So that makes it in March. And so the term is for 1 year. And then the vice chair that would rotate into the chair, of course, it's by vote. We have to vote for both positions. And our tradition, our custom and practice has been to rotate the chair through the committee. So somebody who hasn't served as chair or vice chair would be elected to, usually would we elect somebody who hasn't served to the vice chair position, and then they would move on to chair and would maintain that. If we have if everyone has served, then we start the rotation again. And that's essentially the way we've been operating, so that everyone on the committee eventually becomes the chair of the committee for 1 year.
It's teamwork.
And the chair has to run the meetings, and also will represent the committee at city council meetings when it's required, and occasionally meet with applicants from time to time if it's required. But some of those things can be appointed. The chair can appoint those duties to other members of the committee if the chair sees fit. So that's, and the basic job is to run the meeting. That's fundamentally the basic job. So the chair is sort of
I think
an equal among equals.
I also think the chair collaborates a lot with Jenny. And I think
Yes.
that's really important,
It sets the agenda
right?
with Jenny.
Jenny and I work quite a bit together.
Weekly. Yeah.
Okay, so I would think that we should nominate somebody who hasn't, we'll have to nominate and vote for chair and a vice chair this time.
Do we know who has been chair, like what the history going back is? So like Susan, you were chair this year. Erling, you were chair the year before, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then I think I was chair the year before that.
Sandy may have been. I think Sandy. You're getting closer, Janice, in the rotation.
Okay,
Sandy, you were, so it was Susan, and then it was Erling, and then it was you, Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy interviewed me when I was a member.
So we're saying, man.
Yeah.
So the question is,
Well, I would like to suggest that one or both of the new members become chairperson. And maybe both of you, but one becomes chairperson, one becomes a potential
vice,
person, because you're going to learn a lot. about the workings. You've been here certainly long enough. It's such a very supportive committee. If you have any questions at all, any of us, all of us have been chair people before. I know we would all like to support you, but just based on what's going on in your lives, because sometimes you have more time than others, maybe you could both consider stepping up and becoming, leaders. You're both terrific. You both
Yeah,
know a lot
we're
about
lucky to have you.
you both know a lot about the art community, you know a lot about Lafayette. You're both connected in different ways. And I would love to see both of you. I know it doesn't matter to me what order it would be, depending on what works for you, to take these positions.
Well, what do you think about that, Dave and Yuki?
Just speaking for myself, it does make sense. Here's my personal problem with that I have. I'm working on another committee down in Santa Cruz on a fairly large strategic planning piece of work that has to do with CAL FIRE and logging companies, and I'm drinking from the fire hose down there right now, trying to lead. I'm basically leading the work, and so I'm a little hesitant this year because this is going to be a big part of my volunteer effort through this summer. I'm a little hesitant to take on anything more this year.
Oh, how about the vice chair position?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like historically that's more of a position in waiting than it is an active position.
Yep.
Well, Yuki.
Yuki.
So Yuki, I really didn't mean to throw you under the bus there, but
Yuki, you'll have lots of support. No problem. You won't have any problems. You'll find it. You'll enjoy the power.
I was kind of hoping Dave would take the bigger position. I'm not well versed in this. I've been watching these meetings and it makes me a little nervous. The public speaking makes me nervous. Working with Jenny makes me really excited. So
I think all of us have really grown from when we started becoming chairman. I mean, there's so much support in this group, and Jenny is fabulous. She does 90.5%, maybe 99.5% of the work. I mean, it really is not a big job. And if public speaking is something that concerns you, there are a lot of us. I never mind speaking in public, and I know many of us feel the same way. Or if there's any other aspect of this that's difficult or something that you're a little concerned about, you have a lot of support from this committee. It really is a committee that works together.
It's very true.
And Yuki, if on this next meeting, you could assign someone to take your place if you didn't feel comfortable going in with regard to the temporary art thing.
I will say though, Yuki says she doesn't like public speaking, but when Jenny and I were doing the Branagh presentation and we both got cut out of the meeting, and poor Yuki was the other member that was there helping us out. We both got the sign saying not allowed to rejoin, flashing across our Zoom thing. And Yuki knocked it out of the ballpark.
Did knock it out.
It was sensational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I was like pooing in my pants. not feeling really collected. I think if I'm prepared, I could probably do it. Yeah.
We'll
help you.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I appreciate it. No, I totally get it. I think I'm definitely nervous. But I also want to serve. I definitely want to serve. So if Dave would rather not take the bigger position and would take the vice chair, I can definitely step up and attempt this bigger position. And
Well, I'll make the motion.
I want to contribute. I want to contribute.
Help you. And you do, Yuki. You do very much so.
Okay.
And I can back you up if you have to miss a meeting or anything. Then I could certainly probably step in with
Yeah, that would be great.
with help.
especially with, well, I think till the end of the year, it should be okay. I think my kids will be able to get back to school and it shouldn't interrupt my life too much. But yeah, there will be maybe a little transition where I might have to rely on you, Dave.
Fair
I
enough.
think you're both going to really, first of all, I think you'll both be terrific, but I think you're going to enjoy it. You'll be surprised how much you'll enjoy it and grow from the position. It's really fun.
Dave?
Start in June, just for clarification.
Yes.
It
Yes.
starts in June. So
It could start in April.
Well, we gotta have a vote.
So may I make the motion that,
Yes.
that we ask Yuki to become the next chair and Dave to become the assistant chair,
Vice
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
vice chair?
A
I
second?
second.
Okay, call for the motion.
Okay, Dave.
Ay, 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 ay.
Get the vote
Yuki.
for yourself.
Hey, I.
Erling.
Aye, a big aye.
Yes.
Two ayes.
Aye.
Sandy.
Very excited to say aye.
And Chair rounds it out and says, welcome aboard, you two. Okay.
may I introduce a guest who has been,
Oh, absolutely. And thank the guests for being so patient.
yeah, Cheryl, I am allowing you into the meeting and you are able to speak. We can hear you if you unmute.
So we're opening public comment for a moment here.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheryl, we can't hear you.
He already leaving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheryl is still on mute.
Oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
There we go.
I just saw you guys getting new chair and vice chair, but I didn't hear what the question was. I just saw my screen say unmute.
Oh, well, welcome, Cheryl.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure if there was a question.
I just noticed that you came in about mid-meeting and usually we introduce guests at the beginning of the meeting. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Cheryl, and I have been to, I think, one meeting before in room like 240 a few years ago. And I kind of came in a little bit late, but I was interested in the birdhouse discussion. And I hear that that was going to the city council. So I'm not sure if there was an action that was actually taken on that. We were talking about ordinances and public art in general. So I think it was the birdhouses fell into a greater topic of ordinances and things like that. If I understood that coming in late. So I was just listening mostly and learning.
Great. May I have your last name? Just, I'm supposed to put down the names of people who attend. Would you
Oh,
mind? sharing it with
McDonald.
us?
McDonald. McDonald.
Can you spell that, please, sir?
M-A-C Donald.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Oh, I've seen your name at many. You have been here before. You may have spoken at some. I just remember your name. Maybe I've met you even. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Jenny, do you have any announcements?
Oh yeah, I do. And I'm sorry this is running late. I have two announcements. Mayor Candell met with Akalani's high school students and discussed what the city could do with them. And out of that discussion came an idea for a historical record event where pictures, stories, and artworks about what Lafayette residents experienced during shelter in place, with an emphasis on the beauty that was found where we might have otherwise missed that beauty because of shelter in place, would be featured. And so I was asked to communicate that idea to you. There was an idea that maybe instead of a day in the life, which I communicated had not happened because of a sort of a lack of interest, I think the last go round.
Right.
Maybe
That's the
instead of that-
photo exhibit. Right.
instead of that annual event, that maybe there's a way for the Public Art Committee to work with Akalani's high school students and the mayor on an event like this, which ties into my second announcement. She had a great story about a hummingbird that her family has watched. They named it Buttercup, and then found out that it was a male hummingbird and decided he could totally rock that name. So that was an example of some of the things that we might have missed had we not been in our homes with this time. So the second thing I wanted to bring up with, I got a tip that someone connected to El Charro is interested in maybe using that space as a pop-up gallery for a period of time. And so it was my idea to kind of marry these two concepts, because we're losing El Charro as an institution that's important to many in Lafayette. And what a great large space that would be for performance, photos, stories, artwork, some grand historical event, art show. And so I have the name of the person to contact about something like that. So I was presenting you with Mayor's idea and this possible space, and for somebody to maybe, if you're interested, give the person a call and ask what they have in terms of space and are willing to offer, and then maybe start a subcommittee of working on this project if you're interested.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. That would be great.
Absolutely fabulous. Does anyone know the building owners? Does anyone?
I have the name, and it was given to me like it was supposed to be top secret,
Okay.
but I had to present it to you, and I've also presented it to La Miranda Arts Council.
Okay.
So there, it would be an opportunity, since you've talked about working with La Miranda Arts Council on gallery space, it would be an opportunity to maybe create
Absolutely.
a program together and see how that works for you.
That's exciting to have that crossover, and I'd be happy to pursue that.
So I'll send you the name okay. The name.
Good.
So that's it for my announcements.
Good announcements.
Very
Exciting. There's a lot of really, there are a lot of really great opportunities here. People send me all sorts of ideas. A design engineer in town talked about these custom manhole covers, which is an idea that I absolutely love in an arts district. And we have Clay Jensen in town, who's a metal worker and easily casts the manhole covers. So there's just a lot of really great ideas coming in, and a lot of possibilities if we can work toward building up an in lieu fund, a public art fund. There's a lot of exciting stuff we could do.
Absolutely.
I love that idea.
I know, it's really cool. I mean, what he proposed to me.
So nice. All right, are we good for April 7th for our next meeting?
I have just two
Sure.
quick things.
Certainly.
One, I just wanted to mention that yesterday I met with two other judges, and we did the high school visual arts competition judging
Thank you.
for La Miranda Arts Council, which went really well. And I just wanted to mention that there were some pretty impressive photographs. And obviously with the pandemic and all, there were a number of photographs that were pandemic related. But there were also some really wonderful photographs from other genres. So just wanted to report out on that. We do have some pretty talented high school students.
To me, that's been one of the very rewarding elements of doing this job, is seeing some of the work that our students are doing. You know, now that my children are so far gone from that, to be able to see things that come in through LPI or something else, it's like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm doing the 3D works for the same competition on Friday, and I've already reviewed them and scored them. And we had 46 entries in 3D sculpture. And I have to say, the one that I picked as #1 blew me away. I was so excited to see some of this work come out. I also have a friend who's an art teacher at Miramonte, and so I asked his friend, I'm like, hey, you do a hand ceramic assignment, don't you? Because I saw like 7, fists out of ceramic. So it's been a great experience, and I have to second that. I was really excited by some of the high school work. It would be great if we could find a way to show that also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just a quick question. I wondered, Jenny, this may be mostly a question for you. Is the city talking at all about what the protocol is going to be for returning to in-person meetings?
No, I asked about returning to the office. I've never worked in the office. I've always been remote, but they had opened city offices, and I was at a meeting yesterday and was told that many people are not coming in because until people can get vaccinated, they have an alternating schedule for city offices. And that's all I really know about. So people come in 1 or 2 days a week, and then they let the office air out and another person can come in. So there's staggered work schedules. And I know nothing about, our meetings. We can't hold them in the city offices, which is where we generally hold them.
Yeah.
Because it's too many people within
Too
that.
close parameter. Yeah, we're too closed in.
Well, maybe when the weather gets warmer, we can meet in a park or something.
You could do
Okay.
that. Then
That's all I got.
I have anybody else? I have,
Go ahead, Erling.
yes, with regard to the 3D art project, that brought to mind the cabinet that we've got on a bench.
Good job, Erling, on the cabinet.
Have we got permission to order that? And if so, let's get it ordered as soon as possible.
We did get permission.
We did. We and it's recorded.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm struggling. Maybe Susan and I can go over the to-do list because this kid's Adam Dolberg's sign needs to get in the ground before the temporary artwork is no longer even loaned to us. And so there are a lot of these things that take several hours to actually get done. I've sent out the emails, then you do the follow-ups, and you have to get somebody to get the post in the ground. And I've got the sign and can screw it in. So there are all of these things that
little things in each
they
case.
seem like they're little things, but they take a lot of time. And I would love to get some input on prioritization because I can't work under.
We should talk tomorrow and go through a list, a punch list.
With the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think anyone has, pardon me?
I could maybe get started on that by requesting a new quote, something like that.
That would be great.
That would be really helpful, Erling.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll tell them what our budget is and ask for a new quote. And I'm sure that's what it's going to be.
Okay. That'd be
And
great.
then we'll get it ordered.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, group. A lot done. It was a longer meeting, but everybody hung in there. It wasn't 8 hours. And think about, we're going to have a full agenda for April too. So.
Okay, well, and congratulations to our new management team.
There you go.
Hey.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, you guys.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
all.
Thank you.
Very well.